In 30 weeks, I gained 35 pounds.
Holy crap. I've been around pharmacology a long time. You look ridiculously drug-free, except I'm a drug test on triceps, motherfucker. I don't know what the hell's going on with it. The rest of you looks awesome. Folks, how you doing? Dr. Mike here. This is Tristyn Lee. We are doing some training today. Well, Tristyn's doing training and I'm being a creep in the background. I'm gonna be watching Tristyn, and I'm also gonna be asking some questions about his mega transformation where he gained a crap load of muscle in a relatively short period of time. There's a method to the madness. If you wanna find out about the science and the insight and the seedy gossip, tune in. 3, 2, 1, gossip. How long have you been training? How old are you? How long have you been training for?
22 years old. I started training around 13. Got seriously into the bodybuilding aspect around 15.
15. And how much did you weigh when you were 15?
I never weighed myself. I'm guessing probably 120 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you started working with Jared how long ago?
A year and a half, maybe a little bit more than that, yeah.
Okay. What was your gain situation like before you started working with Jared? How much body weight had you gained over how many years?
So from the time I started, when I was really dialing in, when I was 15, I was 120 pounds. And then when probably the peak weight before I started working with Jared was around 145. And then when I got super lean, I was down to 137 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. And you had a good time training? You made gains, it was fun, all that stuff?
For the first 4 years, I would say, of serious bodybuilding training, from 15 to 19, I made great progress, yeah.
Excellent. What happened between 19 and basically 2021 to when you met Jared? What about that time?
I was extremely lean during that period, so it made it difficult to gain any size at all. And a lot of my training was maintenance, if not regression in some senses.
Ooh. How do you know it was regression? How do you suspect it was regression?
Just strength decreases and overall sense of well-being and fatigue within the gym.
Sure. Over how long of a time period did that occur?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
What was your diet like?
I was doing carnivore for I would say half of it, the last half of it.
What about the first half?
First half was still low carb,
Okay.
probably closer to like a ketogenic approach.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty much no carbs.
Okay. What got you into the low carb carnivore style of dieting?
So when I was 15 years old, actually I was 13 years old, my mom got into a ketogenic diet, and I found that I was operating better when I cut out processed foods and just foods that were causing like indigestion or just poor digestion in general. At the time I was playing soccer, so I just felt light, quick, and just felt good overall. So that was the first spark into it, and that just kind of carried through. And through those first few years, I was making good progress, so I didn't really question it, you know?
Sure. And then how did you feel towards the carnivore times as far as gym energy, mental clarity, pumps, soreness, gains? How did that hold?
It was good at the start for sure, especially the mental clarity. I found myself really sharp throughout my days in and out of the gym. Pumps were good again at the start, it was fine. But I think as I got deeper and deeper into like dieting or maintenance and regression, my food was just so low for the amount of activity that I was doing in general, and it had been for such a prolonged period of time that it just wasn't adequate to get me good pumps or anything like that by the end of it.
And did you suspect something was up, or were you like, this is kind of normal?
I think because I was in such a routine, I kind of just pushed it aside.
Yeah. And so it was your lack of gains that was bothering you, not your lack of perception of how you felt in the gym or
For sure.
like that. So Tristyn, what were your macros like basically the week before you started working with Jared, roughly?
200 to 210 fat, 200 to 210 protein, around there.
Nominal carbs?
None,
Okay.
other than
Veggies.
I didn't even do veggies.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's right.
crap.
You had to add
Yeah.
those into your diet.
yeah,
And so what were you
Slowly.
eating primarily? What kind of food?
fish, beef, eggs. That's pretty much it.
No external fat source addition to that, just from the meats?
Yeah, just from the meats.
Wow.
So
Oh, sure.
I would do tallow,
Okay,
but just from beef still. So,
sure,
Yeah.
sure. And then when you and Jared started working together on your diet, what were the macros changed to?
I believe we started around 150 carbs.
Yeah, slowly introduce them so that way
Started
it wasn't
around
such
the
a shock.
workout.
You didn't balloon up a shitload and not enjoy the process?
We kept protein around 170 or so. Fats were around, I think, 60 to 70 around that
Yeah,
time.
a little higher because I wanted to make the swap in fats and carbs slowly for you. And most of the carb sources also were more like fruits and things of that nature that he would be a little more used to. So I was like, okay, we'll do this. I don't want you to hate the process. I don't want you to balloon up right away and be like, fuck this.
What fats?
Mostly from poly and monounsaturated fats,
Okay.
nut sources, nut butters, and
Nuts
olive
and nut butters.
oil.
And how many grams of fat roughly in that first little phase?
In the what?
In the first little phase,
I
how many
believe it
grams
was
of fat
90
roughly?
to 100
90
because
to
I
100,
wanted
so
to
still
make
pretty
sure.
high.
Yeah, I think the calories were pretty much equated for.
Yeah,
I got
equated
you.
calories.
And then during that little mini ramp up, did you feel anything different, or was it more later you started feeling?
I didn't feel any massive noticeable like changes. I mean, I definitely filled out
Okay.
from the start,
Yeah,
and we dropped weight.
We dropped weight.
Yeah.
And Jared, what do you attribute that to? The weight drop?
Cortisol reduction by a landslide. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so they're removing him from a hypocaloric condition,
Yeah.
and also introducing carbs, which are anti kind of sympathetic,
anti-catabolic, and for
anti-catabolic,
sure.
blunt cortisol to some
Absolutely.
extent.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then so after how long did you guys start to ramp up carbs and start
2
to lower
weeks.
fats?
Pretty much right away when we noticed that my weight was dropping, he was like, let's throw them right in.
Okay.
Responded well, digestion was good, and just...
Okay, so everything was good digestion-wise. It wasn't like a shock. You weren't shitting blood.
No.
No
Especially
more blood
because-
than usual.
No, just usual. But for the carb sources, we just kept them with stuff that was pretty simple that I had used a while back and I knew I was like okay with. So I was doing like rice and sweet potato,
Very cool.
and I felt fine with those.
Yeah, I remember you staying with us and you ate only rice and sweet potato
Yeah.
for carbs pretty much. Maybe
Pretty
some
much.
asparagus or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
even
pretty
gave him the
simple.
option, I think about 4 weeks in. I'm like, you can have a free meal per week. He's like, just didn't do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
It increases
All
carbs a little bit.
yeah.
So after the 2-week ramp, you guys went higher in carbs. Similar fats or lower fats?
It was pretty close, I think.
Yeah, at that stage similar.
We kept the
At that
same,
stage
yeah.
it kept similar because the body weight dropping like that. I was like, okay, we have room to push carbs and then take some fats away later if we want to really increase them, which we definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was your next elevation of carbs after that first?
10 grams per meal, so it's about 50 grams per day.
Okay. And how long did you sustain that for?
2 weeks again.
Okay.
And then immediately we just kept bumping until my weight was actually moving.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And how long did it take for your weight to start moving up?
2 months maybe.
Longer
Holy
than
crap.
expected. Yeah.
2 months.
So you were pretty deep into the hole.
Yeah, for sure.
And how were you feeling at the end of this 2-month ramp? Any different feeling wise in the gym and everything like that?
Nothing ridiculously noticeable. My
Yeah.
pumps were a little bit better,
Yeah, we had that like,
but the check-ins were definitely different.
yeah,
so
we
like
had that
visible
like 3
changes.
day,
Yeah.
the 6 day before and after thing
Yeah.
that we posted up. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Just
So
like tighter, fuller. It was crazy.
so as far as in the gym performance, I wasn't feeling major differences. Maybe slight increases in pumps, slight increases in energy, but generally it was pretty close. But then the biggest difference were the visible changes when we were doing check-ins and stuff.
Sure. And then after that first 2 months of ramping, where was your next move as far as carbs and calories?
We took them pretty high, up to 5, what was it?
We got up to 550 at the end
Yeah.
per day.
Yeah.
And it was every single time, it was 10 grams per meal, 10 grams per meal, 10 grams per meal. And we would do that whenever my weight stalled again. We would just pretty much do it right on the fly.
What
So
that-
you were
what-
gaining, but then stalling, gaining, and then
Yeah, what
stalling.
that process ultimately did was increase the time of which I would normally have somebody in a surplus combined with high volume training. I might do 16 weeks max at some points in time and then take some time to resensitize or mini cut. But he was so lean already, there was so much preparatory hypertrophy already. He was gaining tissue that he was already kind of, building the building blocks for that lean tissue. He was finally actualizing that, and
Yes.
we saw it come
And
to actual
filling them out,
fruition. And then it just kind of prolonged that to like more of a 30-week process
Okay.
of high volume training.
Okay,
Because he was fine, he was fresh, he was still getting pumps in the gym,
sure.
no joint pain, movements were all ticking really well. So we masked for quite some time.
30 weeks. What did you weigh at the beginning of the 30 weeks? About 135?
So I started around 137.
37.2.
Yeah, 137.2.
And then at the end of the 30 weeks?
I believe it was 170, 171 or something around there.
So
And
like
then we did a mini cut.
35 pounds or so
Yeah, pretty
over
much.
the course of 30 weeks.
Yeah. It was pretty steady, like 1 pound per week pretty much on.
But it just kept
After he
going.
started gaining.
Yeah.
And at the end of that ramp, you were doing roughly 200 grams of protein or a little less?
170.
170 protein,
Kept it
550 carb,
Yeah.
and how much fat?
We, at that point, got him back down to about 60.
60 fat.
Yeah.
And training is feeling good. Did you notice how much bigger you felt in your body at that point? Or
The
were you
first few little bit, I wasn't really noticing too much. And then as I got towards like 160,
Yeah.
we started to notice some big changes. So
yeah, and then north of 160 to 170, you were really like, holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
Was it a cool feeling? Was it like, oh, this is neat? Or was this like, oh, holy shit?
yeah, I always explain to people by the end of it, at the start, when people talk about getting lean, I had body dysmorphia or whatever, where I didn't think I was lean enough. And then by the end of it, I had like reverse body dysmorphia, where I was like, I feel great. And I was like, I was starting to push it. So
Yeah.
so I
But
felt
you-
good at the end.
And
Yeah.
people will see the pictures, but you didn't really gain a ton of fat. It seemed like you gained almost pure muscle the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did gain fat, and then
Of course.
obviously filling out glycogen as well and holding on to more water from
Sure.
increasing carbs.
Sure.
But I think the fullness helped with the illusion of
This
looking
was a
leaner.
cool look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So I think that even though there was fat gain, I think because I was so much more full,
Sure.
muscles are tighter to the skin, all that different
Sure.
stuff, and made it seem like it was more muscle than even it was. So.
Sure. And then what happened to your strength over the course of that 30-week
Good
time?
Lord.
So my strength was kind of in the tent, like it was
Yeah.
like at the start of it, and then by the end of it, I was doing incline dumbbell presses with like 130 pound dumbbells.
Yeah, he's in an
And
interesting
you started with
situation.
how much dumbbell?
probably like, with that technique, probably like 7. I mean, the first time we trained together, we did 50s,
Yeah.
and then by the end of it, I was up to like 130.
So just dozens of pounds of strength gain.
A lot of
I
strength.
assume on like all lifts probably, or most
I
lifts.
think Smith squatting was one thing that impressed the fuck out of me. He was doing some crazy shit. He's in an interesting situation where like he, would be considered in this like social media influencer realm. So a lot of people reach out to him and like, hey, we're gonna do a training collaboration. But you know how those type of people usually train. And it's really just kind of like Tristyn hits me up, hey, I'm doing this collab with these guys today, Larry wheels or some shit. I'm like, you know the drill, just be as safe as possible. If you're gonna go heavy as fuck, only do a couple sets of that kind of shit. And from there, the next week we'll pick back up with the regular training.
Sure.
So it's seeing the cool feats of strength he's also doing on the side with
Yeah.
like the influencer shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
God damn, you put
Yeah.
on some strength.
What's
Big
the Smith
time.
machine transformation?
Oh God, what were you
on
doing
the
at
squats. I mean, the
first?
first time we trained legs together, you had me doing a plate on
Yeah.
squats, and then by the end of it, I was doing 365 for sets of 12 to 15.
Holy
That shit
shit.
impressed the hell.
Did your
With
legs
great
look different?
technique.
Yeah, my legs probably blew up. My legs and my back blew up the most throughout
Yeah.
the off season or the massing phases, and just the strength increases and my ability to like push past that certain point that I found I was kind of stopping at before it was just kind of blew my mind
Having
as well.
blood glucose put you through the session is very nice.
Strange,
I was
right?
like, is this okay? Like, should I be increasing?
It
this
is a
much?
little scary though, right? Because
Yeah.
you're like, am I gonna break? Like, can my tendons handle this? Did you ever have thoughts of like, it's programmed to do 125 on incline dumbbell, and you're like, is this really a good idea or not?
Yeah, in some cases, I kind of just trusted the process. I'm like, my technique is pretty good here,
Yeah.
so I think I'm okay to go. But because it was such drastic jumps, I was like, is this right? Like,
So pretty much every session, you were feeling like a
I was
little
putting
bit of a
the
different
app, and
person.
it was like giving me suggested reps at the start. By the end, it was pretty spot on. But at the start, I was like beating it by 3 reps. Yeah, it was crazy.
Alrighty, so it took you 30 weeks to go through this process, and you gained something like over 30 pounds, 35 pounds of body weight. You got a little bit more body fat, obviously, but like a ton of muscle at the same time, way stronger than ever. As far as food sources, did you stick mostly to the same kind of carb sources you started with?
Yeah, I've kept it the same the entire time. I haven't gone off of. We did add in like through intra, we did some cluster dextrin and stuff, so that kind of increased. But the whole time I've just done rice and sweet potato.
That's one thing at the start that I didn't do. I knew a lot of people had a lot of clients in the past would have GI issues with like Gatorade intra workout. So he asked me about cluster dextrin, and I was like, we could give it a try. We didn't really introduce the intra shakes until I was making kind of those second to third carbohydrate increases, because I didn't want him to experience any weird GI shit during training. I wanted him to be able to train, have good sessions, and then we slowly put those intra shakes in, increase those as well. So they were a decent part of your carb sources for the day, which was pretty cool.
Sure.
Really the only change I would say that was made in that time period as far as the sources.
And as far as
go.
nutrient timing, you're eating multiple meals a day, roughly evenly spread carbohydrates, or?
Around the workout, we had more carbs for sure. And I think it was generally 5 meals and then 1 shake
Okay.
intra workout.
Okay. And how are you feeling like during the day from all these carbs? Were you sleepy? Were you tired? Were you zoned out? Or were you still feeling pretty decent?
I was still feeling pretty decent. I think especially because we kind of did like gradually increase. My body was adjusting pretty well to it, but overall it was pretty good. I wasn't as much as I was expecting, definitely, as far as, you know, carb crash or whatever.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's pretty consistent energy, especially because I did have so many feedings throughout the day.
Sure. It's been a while now since you gained all that weight. What did you do afterwards? Did you hold your weight for a while?
So we did a mini cut after the 30 weeks.
How long was it and how much weight did you lose?
3 weeks, well, it's 4 weeks, 3 weeks of accumulation, then 1 week of deloading. And then I believe I lost 12 pounds around there.
Yeah, 8 to 12 pounds.
Yeah, 8 to 12 pounds.
Okay.
And then we went into 2 more mesos of massing.
Oh, wow.
Short maintenance, and then went into full cut.
And this is you're in the full cut now. And how far into the cut are you now?
Last week, baby.
Yeah. So many weeks has it been total?
12 to 15?
12 to 15.
I don't remember what we did precisely.
Yeah,
as
there's
far as
2
like
mesos.
2?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're on 12 then.
Yeah, we're on
2
12.
5-to-1 paradigms, I believe. Yeah.
How was the cut?
Easy. A lot easier than I expected it to be. Like, the weight was just falling off. You know, I thought the first time when I was dieted all the way down, I was tricking myself into feeling a particular way, but I think after having that long period of growth, it made it a lot easier to go right back into a cut. So even like at the weight that I'm at now, my training's feeling good.
How much do you weigh now?
153, 154.
153.
Yeah.
And you're done dieting, or this is your last
Almost
week?
done, yeah.
Almost done. And then what's next for you?
So we had contemplated doing a show prep, but I don't think I'm going to at this time, just because I wanted to be in a mental state where I was really motivated to do the show for myself rather than any other reasons for content or business or whatever it is. I found myself loving training a lot more with the progressions that we've had and stuff. So I really do want to just go back into another growing phase and just enjoy that progression again. So
that's great. That's a great
right.
plan.
Yeah. That's the best conversation I could have with a client, to be honest. It's too many people try to get on stage, just get on stage, especially when they have pressure that you have. And it's just like cool to see somebody like fall in love with the training process over again after such a long career already, 13 years old.
Yeah.
And really stick to it and not worry about all the external pressure. So
absolutely.
That's fucking cool.
That's a conversation you guys had at some point. So it was assumed you were going to do a show.
Yeah.
But then who brought up the fact that maybe it's not the time?
So Jared had brought to me some like shows that we could potentially do within the next month, really.
Yeah.
But I just told him that I just wasn't feeling that it was the right time. Throughout the cutting phase, though, I told him, you know, I'm going to see how I'm feeling mentally, because that was a big conversation that we had at the start of even the first massing phases and when I first started working with Jared. So I kept that as an emphasis throughout the entire process, how my mental state was as far as what I wanted to do with competitions, with more massing phases, more going into a diet, those sort of things. And then towards the end of this, I just made the decision and had that conversation with Jared, and Jared was like, dude, I'm glad you said that. So.
And this next massing phase coming up, what's the plan for that duration-wise and weight gain-wise?
Basically the very similar process. We'll obviously have less time in that first hypercaloric state. What I'm a fan of doing, and we just talked about this actually, is right after this 12-week cut, we're pretty resensitized to high volume because you did have a little holding period, a maintenance period before we did the full cut. So we're gonna do one pretty big push, maybe a 5-to-1, 4-to-1 mesocycle of just really high volume, fun intensity techniques, push the food up quite a bit, get him like 5 pounds heavier. He had a hydrostatic weighing, you were 6%.
Yeah, but who knows?
Right. But you know, it's pretty close.
Hydrostatic weighing is a gold standard.
Yeah, it's close. It's pretty close. So getting somebody back up, because he's basically, like we were pushing for that show, and this is probably as lean as I would ever get somebody who's not gonna actually do the thing.
Maybe a little leaner.
Yeah, right, it really is. So like getting it back up to the 8, 9, 10%, a little more auspicious for growth whenever we're actually putting in the calories and stuff. So big bump in body weight right away, big bump in calories right away. He's gonna look crazy and full, and he's gonna, might even peak him for a little thing on Monday. Yeah. It'll be a lot of fun. So probably a small maintenance period from there, just resensitize.
How small?
Maybe a month, 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks is usually what I like to do.
Strength training kind of stuff?
Exactly, yeah, and he loves that kind of shit too, so.
Time to get after it.
Yeah,
that'll be fun content stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And then from there, we take, 16 to 20 weeks, like I was talking about in there. That's probably about as high as I push the high volume training before doing either a mini cut. We'll see where your body fat is. I assume he's going to get to 180-ish this time.
Oh.
And then we'll see.
Oh. Jabba the Hutt approves.
Yeah.
The current cut you're finishing now, how many grams of carbs per day on average are you eating?
Off days are 160, training days are 200.
Okay. And what did you start the cut at, carb-wise?
A little bit higher.
400?
400.
400?
Yeah.
Did you believe that you were going to be able to cut like on 400? But then the weight started coming off.
Yeah, it was like the first bit was like so easy.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, we only really pulled down to 200 based on the fact that there was potentially a show in sight. And I had a few natural organizations picked out and when the show lines were. So you probably could have kept going with like 300, really slow.
Sure.
Could have been fine.
Sure. It took a big leap of faith for you to change from the carnivore approach to the high carb approach. How do you manage that? Many people just won't do something like that.
I think Jared played a big factor in that, having some sort of objective assessment outside of myself. And I think because we did it so gradually, it didn't feel like as big of a jump. And my digestion was all good. My weight, I think that was a big factor as well, because I was encouraging to see that it wasn't like this crazy jump or something. And so I think because we controlled all the variables, I'm someone who's very objective about everything. Like I track everything from my sleep to my steps to my training progression, all these different things. And because Jared and I were looking at all those things and I was seeing as upward trending and tracking well, I was pretty confident that I could just put my faith in his programming, planning, nutrition.
What made you go with Jared?
It's actually after I trained with you. I mean, I'd followed your guys' content for some time, just seen you across the interwebs. But after I trained with you, I knew that I kind of wanted to work with RP in some way. So Jared was one of the first people that I saw what he looked like when he was natural. And I know that's not really a good way to pick a coach necessarily based off what they look like.
Yeah.
But I think because I saw that in combination with the different principles, that I was like, oh, this is working, or this seems to be working.
Sure.
And he was very objective with everything. Nothing was emotional. Everything was based on what are the stats of like your training and your sleep, your nutrition, all these different things, even your emotional state.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was like, this is the right fit.
Sure. And how did you guys keep track of training stats? Was it you were using the RP hypertrophy app?
At the start, I believe, you were just releasing the app and you got me on it pretty much right away. Initially, we just tracked just through my notes and stuff, but it was pretty much within the first month we got onto the app. And
basically sending over the first week of variations that I would like him to implement, giving him the rep range targets, because the app doesn't necessarily do that. It tells you what you can and can't do. Just to be a little more accurate, if you do have a coach who's using it with you, it's like if the coach wants you to do some kind of weird intensity technique, it's like, hey, write this note down next to this exercise. You're going to be doing a giant set here. If it's like, hey, normally, last mesocycle we did sets of 10 to 15 on this exercise. This mesocycle I put in like a rep column. We're doing 15 to 25, and it's going to be rest pause. It just really kind of like stuff like that to even hone it in even more for Tristyn through the process, because with periodization, you're not doing the exact same shit for 16, to 30 weeks.
Yeah.
There's some mixing and matching with volume progressions and intensity and all that, MyRep matching, things of that nature. So that's basically app the entire time. And it fucking worked wonders.
I love it. Don't swear, Jared. It's a family channel. So you've always been a meticulous tracking type of person in your bodybuilding journey, and I assume also the rest of your childhood. Yeah. And you found that you gelled really well with the hypertrophy app?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's just like,
yeah.
Would you recommend the app to other folks that really like to have everything organized and super kind of well laid out? Because some people they just go fly by the seat of their pants. There's nothing wrong with that. But like for folks like yourself, do you think the hypertrophy app kind of makes a little bit of sense, or what do you think?
For sure. And I think you have to like fully put your trust in it, because a lot of times, like even when we started, you're starting on 1 or 2 sets in your first week of the meso. And I'm like, come on, it's nothing.
Right.
You get to week 2, you're like, okay, it's building. And then week 3, you're like, oh, okay, I don't know if I'm getting to week 4 here. So you really do have to put your trust in it. But I think that like if you do that, then it's very good for objective tracking. Sure. And it's pretty spot on. As soon as that first kind of wacky month of like strength increases, the app kind of like figures you out as you're going along with the biofeedback and stuff. So the more accurately you're able to actually put it into that, the better it's going to give you results for your training progression.
Yeah,
So,
we've,
100%.
we've heard a few people say like, oh, I didn't think I could get 15 reps. The app said do 15. That's exactly how many reps
Yeah.
I got. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
very cool.
It's kind
Very
of
cool.
neat with our initial client coach call. What you do with a client is like a needs analysis. So what you just said with realizing he's very meticulous and data driven and things like that. I was like, so there's two options. I can do all your training for you and you'll just give me your feedback at the end of the week and I'll do stuff for you. Or there's the app, and like, because we had the whole call, we had a chat about where his mentality was and how all that would go. I was like, I think the app's a good call for you. Let's give it a shot. Send me some technique videos each week. I'll modify the techniques so that volume doesn't seem like it's way too little. Because if you're doing that normal fucking rinky-dink jerk around bullshit that we see on the internet all the time, yeah, maybe starting at 2 sets feels like not that much volume. But when you're going through that full range of motion, sending technique videos to your coach, and they're like, hey, you could do this to get a little more range of motion, maybe control the eccentric a little more, it starts to feel like quite a bit of volume. So knowing that he was so good at taking feedback already and he's very analytical, I was like, yeah, app's a great option. And that's also kind of why we approached the diet the same way we did. I was like, where's your mentality with all this shit? You have a lot of external pressure. You've been like basically social media famous since you were 13. And he's like, here and there gets to me a little bit. Seeing a huge spike in my weight would probably be something I don't want. And that's kind of also why with that needs analysis call, it was like, this is how we're going to approach stuff. And you have to have that as a coach, or how the hell do you know what they're going to do? Instead of just shitting out like, okay, here's your exact meal plan. Because some people don't run like that. Some people need the opposite. They need IIFYM.
I run like that.
Yeah.
When I coach, you want to be a champion like all these motherfuckers I coached, you get in one fucking plan. You either sink or swim. You feel me? And I don't give a shit if you sink because no one's ever going to hear about you. But if you swim, I made you happen. I'm your father.
That's how most coaches are.
Yeah. Last question for you. I heard you was talking that shit. Talk that shit now.
That's not a question.
Oh, easy. Okay, JK. Oh, you're right. No, it's technically a request. Could you please talk that shit now? Question mark.
Okay.
So polite.
Isn't it? It's a Canadian way to ask for beef. Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry, sir. I noticed there was a process that's off, and I would just like, if you want to say unkind things to me, you better just do it now. I mean, like, can you believe it?
Is that a Canadian
It's
accent?
Jordan Peterson.
Oh, Jordan Peterson. Okay.
I mean, it's like, are you even really training?
Which is
half-
basically
it's half Irish.
everything. Yeah.
You're lifting
okay.
your dumbbells halfway up. This part of the range exists. I mean, these kids nowadays with social media. Sorry. The real question. Huge transformation for you. What are your biggest take-home points, lessons learned for yourself, and maybe the folks on the television screen would like to benefit if they want to make a change or they want to jump into something head first? What is your kind of take-home points from all this transformation?
Fall in love with the process. That's probably number one, because as soon as I took my eyes off of the things that were more subjective, how you view yourself in the mirror or how you think that other people view you or any sort of thing like that, and start tracking objectively numbers, seeing the small improvements that you're making on a day-to-day basis, whether it's a 2.5 pound jump on your bench or doing a little bit more on your lateral raises or doing another set or whatever it is. Enjoy that part of it. And then you'll make a lot more progress than you will focusing on those tiny little nuances that no one ever notices.
I love it. I love it. Dude, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having
Congratulations
me.
on your new look.
Thank you.
You legit look like a different person.
appreciate it.
When we
Thank
met
you.
like a year and a half
From
ago.
this man.
Nah.
Yeah. And I've been around pharmacology a long time. You look ridiculously drug-free, except I'm a drug test them triceps, motherfucker. I don't know what the hell's going on with it. The rest of you looks awesome. But
Thank you.
awesome result, Tristyn.
Thank
Love
you.
having you on the channel. Folks, check out Tristyn. He's got mega social media. He's everywhere. You probably
Nothing
can't even.
compared to you.
Oh, get the fuck. I don't even know what I have. It's all I'm just riding Jared's coattails. Oh, see, you got your fans in the background. Your fans back
I don't have
there.
12 Lamborghinis like you do.
That's true. We did technically it's 13 now, but I'm saying I got these Lambos, you feel me? Anyway, I hear one out back and I'm gonna catch that shit.